Boom, we are back. And once again, for regular viewers and listeners, this is the Bullish Bitcoin Banter and Bullshit brought to you by Mr. Orlin, aka the Trillion Dollar Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, Mrs. No Show, aka Mrs. No Show, and myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution. So we have a full house. This is the 4Bs, Pod 140. What's going on?
It's unrelenting, the pressure which Mrs. No Show is putting in, turning up to two in a row.
Two in a row. Not that hasn't happened since the beginning. The inception.
Yeah. Did it coincide with the little pump in price we've had the last couple of days? Does that
No,
mean
it
a little bit more?
coincided with my girlfriend fucking off.
Okay. There's always an incentive somewhere.
Definitely.
Yeah.
If I can't trade in Bitcoin, I'll trade in time. So
You know what
Yeah,
we've actually seen? We've seen a pump this week. We heard about the latest news in the world of crypto and what's pumping.
Go on.
Ethereum. The rumor is that apparently an ETF is going to be granted. We might see the flippening. So if you look at the Ethereum price chart for the last 5 days, on the 20th, there's quite a steep climb, just out of nothing. And I think that's the kind of like news that it's going to be allowed as an ETF. But I thought they got to this where they said no fucking chance because it's a security, because it's got a fucking CEO. But someone in work who's a shitcoiner who occasionally listens to this tells me apparently it's going to pump. It's going to go crazy, and I just like have fun down at a shitcoin casino.
Yeah. Well, it seems to. I must admit, I did see it today. Like Bitcoin was up 5-6%, but then I did see Ethereum was sat there, but like below it at 22% up or something for the day. So for a very short-term trade, seems to be true. But yeah, we know there's nothing at the end of, even if the ETF happens, it's like, well, number one, it doesn't matter. It's literally the fiat space, right? The Bitcoin ETF didn't matter, really.
So basically, what you're saying is you're quite scared of the flippening.
Weirdly, it's kind of hilarious that like an ETF is like the biggest thing that can happen to the currency at the moment, because it literally doesn't matter. Like at least with Bitcoin, like it's if anything, it's potentially damaging. As much as it brings in more buyers, it brings in more buyers just to allow custody of that Bitcoin to sit in BlackRock's hands. So that is not a net positive for Bitcoin. It's net negative. But in the short term, we get pumping price. So I guess everyone's like cheering it on, and we'll see. We're kicking the problem down the road. But when Ethereum does that, you just go, okay, probably a pumping price, but does Ethereum even have a product yet? Does it even know what it is? And the answer to that is clearly no. So,
but that's it. It's the internet of everything, but the internet of nothing.
Yeah,
it's a better way to describe it, because it's not money. How many coins are there? You don't know. How many coins will be tomorrow? I don't know. How many coins will be in a year? I don't know. The gas fees are through the fucking roof. So it doesn't really, it's not scalable to be money. It's not even a base layer. And I don't really think there's a genuine use case for having JPEGs on the blockchain.
No, it's only speculation, right? Because obviously, why an ETF doesn't matter for either. Because clearly, like Bitcoin is money, right? So you need to, it's self-custody money. It's decentralized. Is any of that true if you've got money in an ETF? It's like no, because it's not money to you. It's all stored up for ages. It's like, can you send it to anyone? Like no, it's literally you just get a report from BlackRock that says how much Bitcoin you got with them. If you want it back, you probably have to wait 3 days just to get the fiat back. They will never give you the Bitcoin back. The only way of getting your Bitcoin back is they sell it to fiat and give you the fiat. So, and then with Ethereum, it's the same. Like if you're meant to hold ETH, it's supposed to be, yeah, you use it to interact in this new meta kind of every transaction, and Facebook like or whatever is using some form of ETH. Who knows? But it's sat in an ETF. You can't use it. It's just pure speculation. So it's literally weirdly, it's everything that Bitcoin was labeled like as a negative to go, oh, Bitcoin's only there for speculation. And then those same people have gone, oh, now I get Bitcoin because it's on an ETF. You go, yeah, that's Bitcoin with only the speculation part left. Like all the core reasons why everybody else is a Bitcoiner is not the speculation. It kind of proves our point. It's why we're not buying an ETF. It's like we all want to hold our own Bitcoin. because it's the decentralized self-custody attributes that attract us to Bitcoin, not number go up. That's just a nice after effect of being right about the next evolution of money. But yeah,
What I like about it, and I do like about it, is that it will pay for a Rolex that will hold value and will hold money, because the ETH that I still hold, I will sell and pay for it that way. So I will get something out of it, all off £1,500.
We're still waiting for you to sell that shitcoin.
I
no,
was going to say, Ross, do you still have it?
Sorry?
You got rid of yours, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I sold mine like I reckon about 3 years ago, maybe even longer. So mine was when they reset the chain, and I just went, "What the fuck?" I went, "I'm not." There's no principles behind this. I just went. It's when I was got into Bitcoin, and then they reset it when some coins were stolen or something like that. I can't remember what it was exactly, and I just went, "There's no principles behind this. Why have I got it?" And I sold it. I think when it's about £600 or somewhere like that. So I made a slight profit, but I just had no faith in it. And I know it's a lot more now, but it just doesn't have any principles which I'm interested in.
And the thing to always remember as well, it's up a lot today, but I know over the last like 4 or 5 years, if you Bitcoin and ETH next to each other, like Bitcoin's far outperformed over the last 4 years. It's just over the last 2 days it's outperformed, but all shitcoins do that. They all overperform over the short term, but longer term, Bitcoin always wins out. So this would be a perfect time to like dump some ETH. Like they've had this potentially fake news around an ETF. Who knows whether it's true or not? But this is kind of perfect to go switch that into your Rolex or ideally into Bitcoin, because Rolex is also a shitcoin.
Yeah, so cryptocurrencies gain as investors turn optimistic on Ether ETFs.
I don't know why you've hijacked this whole pod to talk about the ETH ETF, by the way.
Right, let's go back to Dig Dunk or SHIB. But yeah, maybe now is the time, unless you actually think an ETF is going to be approved, because this is a speculation bubble. But anyway, we'll move away from this, and otherwise Mr. Alden will have a hissy fit like he did when we used to talk about shitcoins.
Yeah, this is the week. I'm extra cranky this week.
I'm waiting to see which way this pod goes when you down some more whiskey alongside those pain meds.
I know, yeah. Literally had it's first story of the week, isn't it? Because I've had a tooth out today and then a baby 9 days ago. So lack of sleep, painkillers, pain. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we do have to say congratulations on baby number 3 on born on block 843,106. So welcome to the world, new baby Bitcoiner.
Yep.
Congratulations. So
congratulations, man.
Here's the next one.
The next one.
I think that's me. I think that's me. There was an outside chance, obviously, with the 2 girls first, and then if this one was a boy, I think we'd have gone for a brother just to see what would happen. But it was another girl, 3 girls. That's a lot.
3 girls.
Yeah, your life's gonna be pretty full.
That's 3 weddings for you later down the line.
Yep. Yeah.
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 Lots of boyfriends to deal with until they're whatever age.
I know. It's partly why I just wanted a lad now. Not only because like there's different activities you obviously do with them, but girls like can do everything now anyway, so it just probably isn't the same. But I kind of just was thinking 18 years ahead, going with my lad, it's looking like, go on, son. With the girl, it isn't like that, is it? You don't go on, girl. It's like, I can take that off. You put in this on, that jump up, back by 9:30. Then I'll pick you up. With my lad, it's like, do you want to stay out? Do you want me to sneak you a few beers in your coat? Like, don't tell mum. I'd be fucking well encouraging all that. With the second you flip that to girls, I'm patting them down, making sure they're not leaving with any alcohol. Like, it's totally different.
Skirt by the knee, minimum.
Minimum.
Absolutely.
Yeah, There's nothing that Bitcoin Twitter likes more as well, I don't think, is a Bitcoin baby.
Yeah.
It does not do well.
Nice. Yeah.
The Bitcoin wedding was close.
Yes.
It was close.
It was, yeah. But I think it's just like I think why it just really resonates with a lot of people is just that we're Bitcoin adoption is growing as we all have kids. Because literally they know they're going to be raised largely on a Bitcoin standard and they're going to get it.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's just super bullish on it. It's like just pump out these kids because this is how we get adoption by this like the small amount of us, and then we eventually more people joining every day. We know they are, but if all these kids that we're breeding at the bottom are getting on board as well, it's like our numbers are getting bigger and bigger.
100%. You know, that's all they think about. Oh, well, not even all they think about. It's all they know.
Yeah.
You know, they are raised in that way. As you guys know, you've been to the house. There is Bitcoin around in the house. They know Tuesday is recording day. I don't want them thinking in fiat. So, yeah, it's Bitcoin all the way.
It's going up forever, Laura.
Second best.
Maybe this should be called the Revenge Podcast.
Oh no, that's the sailor quote.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. No personal digs. No personal digs were fired.
Yeah. Shots fired.
No shots fired.
Oh, you have to clip that out of context and then
Yeah, of course.
That's like our version of revenge porn on you, really. Like quoted that and then said that.
Well, you can have like on the intro like that bit about there's no second best, then I was all saying congratulations. On that point, do we want to move on to the next story?
Yeah, let's do it.
I thought this one was quite interesting. So this is a post about how, well, actually it's a clip. I forgot because I haven't watched it for about a week.
Yeah.
Is it a quick one or is it a bit too long?
3 minutes or so.
Yeah, so this one's about how Bitcoin changes you. And I did struggle a bit with this one because it talks about how it changes you and what you consider wealth and the fact that you'll feel abundant or wealthy. And I'm kind of like going, the longer which I'm in Bitcoin, the poorer I feel.
Correct. Exactly that. I think exactly that. Not to interrupt, but I don't think about it. I haven't looked at the price for over a week, but it didn't help. I just think I'm broke.
I think the sentiment's right. Bitcoin does change you.
It does change you, but it changes your perspective. Whereas I think your perspective is around what you value. So like your long-term health, relationships, your view on money, all those kind of things. So changing your time preference. And I just didn't have any kind of like, I suppose anything which felt remote, anything similar to being wealthy or abundance.
I think
what about you?
It's the carrot though, isn't it, Ross? Because he's dangling that wealthy kind of concept in front of people. And for a lot of people, that's what gets people into something like this to start with.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Gaz saying to me, like, I told you to buy Bitcoin because the number's going to go up. And then I knew you'd never sell it because wait 5 years and then 5 years would be 10 years. But it was like, you just have to say something to get someone's attention.
So Mr. All In, since you're the group's trillionaire and also one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin, do you feel wealthy and have plenty of abundance?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's because I think he's obviously when you say the word wealth, that is probably largely monetary. But then I think we've all realized it over probably the last couple of years of doing this pod. I think a lot of some pennies have dropped with you guys, which is your wealth and abundance isn't just money. Obviously, Bitcoin does bring you that because the price appreciation, right? Provided you're in it for at least 4 or 5 years, you're guaranteed to have more than you had before Bitcoin. And if you hold it for a decade or more, then you probably don't need to work anymore. But I think what Bitcoin does is once it unmasks that veiled like lie that is money, you start seeing a lot of other stuff that how corrupt business and the government and all these organizations, 3-letter organizations across the world, how interconnected it all is, and what follow the money. Once you unmask that, you suddenly kind of realize, well, you know what, like being kind of patriotic or caring about politics, all that is largely a waste of time. Is largely just purely a distraction, which is engineered to again distract you from the truth that the money is a lie. So I think you just, for me especially, I've just turned my focus onto more personal connections and your family and bringing up your children and stuff. And then that's where
100%.
abundance kind of appears, doesn't it? Because you go, you know what? Yeah, you want to have certain professional aspirations, like do what you want to do in your career, achieve what you want to achieve. But in reality, just having sound money and being able to hold that and not have to worry about working every single day, but then going, my main focus should be are my friends and family, and being a good dad or mum. That's probably the number one thing that we should do. And Bitcoin kind of leads you there eventually, because it just kind of, everything else is just fiat, like, yeah, going out and buying a fast car or a nice watch or going on fancy holidays. Yeah, great. They are the nice little cherry on the top of life, but they're not the end goal. That isn't why we should be doing it. We should be doing it to have a nice, secure family with kids that look after you and all that kind of stuff. And that's the abundance. I think that I was pretty sure that was the case, which is why I kind of worked the way I worked. I always worked to get out and be a dad. That was to weirdly my values just aligned with Bitcoin. But I think there's a lot of people that come into Bitcoin going, the end goal is when I have the Lambo. And I think Bitcoin takes that away and goes, look, the Lambo is a nice thing. If you really want it on the way, then do it. But just know that's a pointless bit of expense and flashness that won't make anyone like you or add anything to your life in the long term. Make sure you're spending time with your friends and family. That's where value is. And then,
yeah, I think that's it. Like, the mentality is, my biggest flex would be just to be able to pack up work, or knowing I can give up work, whatever my choice is going to be, and that I can do what I want. Whereas I think the Lambo thing, I remember being asked someone in work, they're like, when Bitcoin moons, what are you going to do? You're going to buy a Lambo? I said I might buy a 1-year-old electric Golf.
Yeah, because it's these principles that will have got us there. We haven't changed in terms of it.
It doesn't matter. I value my time more than having something fancy. So, like, what would I do if I could give up work? Maybe cycle more. Maybe get some land. Those kind of things. Spend more time with family. I just don't think anything like a Lambo does it for me anymore.
Well, I've kind of proven those things just in this week in terms of, I know before we started recording, I talked about, the lads playing football. Equally on the Monday, I went to Halfords and I bought new tires for my bike. So they're being fitted and putting like slime in it as well to avoid the punctures that I was getting, as you know, because I went out twice last week and got 2 punctures. But equally, Mr. Orlin, like the fact that we were able to catch up and I came round and having that time as well. All of those things weren't possible when I was working full time. Obviously, I've got a small window of time where I'm not working at this moment in time, but they're all the things that if I was in the position not needing to work, it's exactly what I would do. So I'm already fulfilling that prophecy, just not long term.
Yeah, we can dream. So maybe it's a wrong take, but I think the abundance is more of a family connection. I get that because I spend more
family and friends.
I suppose I've always spent the time on my family. I do like value my wider family as well, but then I suppose the health's gone into another level for me. But then again, that's just my natural obsession with things.
Yeah. I think it just as well on the last 5 years or so, it's been super toxic in the politics space, right? So I think so many people spend an inordinate amount of their time fighting for whichever side they're on, right or left, red or blue, like whichever color or side it's meant to be. And I think once you come into Bitcoin, it kind of just takes all that away. It just strips you off it and goes, look, the entire system is corrupt, right, rotten to the core. So cheering on your version of corrupt person in suit is not going to change fucking anything. So just listen to
Bidenomics isn't going to save us.
Bidenomics.
And neither is Trumponomics. It's literally both of them are puppets. Both of them have no power. It's all the decisions happen behind the scenes. And once you know that, you go, oh, right, let's just focus a bit on Bitcoin. And then once you get to a certain level on Bitcoin, I think you go, right, what else is Bitcoin? Basically, what have I learned from that now that I have sound money? What are we supposed to be focusing our time on other than these material assets to collect? And you go, self-sustainability, it's your own health, it's your family, it's being a good dad, it's just doing all these really basic things. And I mean, you just go, holy shit, why wasn't I focusing on those before? Like, it's just, it kind of wakes you up, doesn't it? Like, you did realize we've all been brainwashed watching our kids like TV programs growing up, and then it's just advert, the new thing, and that's what we end up being as adults. Like, what's the next thing? Like, that I can prove to the other people in the rat race that I'm doing better than them because I've got this new toy.
Yeah.
All of it's bollocks. And we shouldn't even be sat competing with these people. It's just get home and you have a roof over your head. You're well fed. You're winning. That's
yeah.
Absolutely.
We're so focused on just paying off the next bit of debt to afford the next new toy, and it's just a waste of
time. Yeah, paying off this bit of debt so I can have some more debt to buy something else which I don't need.
Yeah.
To impress the people I don't like.
That's a Fight Club quote. I like it. Buying shit you don't need to impress people you don't like.
On that point, do you think we should move on to the next one?
Yeah.
So I'm just having to look at my notes because I haven't watched this one for a week as well. I think you include this because it starts off with the post saying, "Someone explain this to me like I'm Peter McCormack." fair play to me. He has commented on it saying, "Star Mac Big Super McCormick." So Pedro had actually commented on it. Basically, everyone just from the Bitcoin space makes fun of Pedro for being a moron.
He wasn't tagged by his handle though, so he's searching his name, or he's seen someone retweet it.
Someone would have passed it on to him or something, taking the piss out of him. Like, imagine if, I don't know, Mr. All-In was a famous Bitcoin influencer. We saw something post about him which we thought was funny because it's taking the piss out of him. I'd send it to him.
Yeah. To be fair, I saw this and I was like, you definitely need to explain it to me like I'm Peter McCormack.
Yeah, I didn't understand. Yeah, exactly.
From my notes, obviously it's basically shitcoin through Lightning, isn't it? So it's fundamentally what Strike have done. So Strike have done it, and someone said, "I've invented this," but didn't Strike do it with the shitcoin fiat anyway, about 2 years ago?
Yeah, well,
it's just liquidity pools either side of Lightning.
Yeah,
and it's not connected to Lightning necessarily. It's just you hold versions of, in Strike's example, he will have a load of different pots of fiat currencies plus Bitcoin sat here, and then you just decide which ones need to be bought and sold on which side of the country that you're sending it to. And then the transaction may happen over Lightning, and you just arbitrarily change the numbers around in the database below it. But this one is a weird one. I must admit, my head's a bit fuzzy on it. But it's something similar. Yeah, it's just sending Tether into Bitcoin over Lightning, and then it arrives in Tether at the other side. So it's like Strike. It strikes largely Bitcoin to fiat. But then this is doing shitcoins over Lightning. So someone's done that. And largely what a waste of time. But it's interesting that the shitcoins are actually using Lightning, because I didn't think Lightning worked, according to most of these people. So
but like I said, in my mind, I just went, Strike did this 2 years ago. I don't understand why this is a big thing at all.
No, it's just the shitcoin is hilarious, aren't they? They'll slate Bitcoin for anything and everything, and then once they kind of catch up and can use part of that layer on Bitcoin, and now they can do it as well, they shout about it and start going, this is so bullish for this random coin. Going, it didn't matter last week, now it's like the be all and end all for your shitcoin. It's just
I'm still waiting for Lightning to advance. I think there are things which it needs to do to scale, but it does fundamentally work. It's just that if you want to become the world currency, you do need to sharpen things up.
Yeah, there's quite a bit
which
of
is good. It's
compatibility.
going to happen in time.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like most technologies or some technologies that were there, it's been there and it's just iterative, isn't it, over time? And the railroads are effectively being built as we speak, and we're living through it.
Yeah, exactly. There's people who are spending time looking at different methods because there's not just lightning, there's a couple of other methods which people are looking to. The one which I always talk about, which is Fedimint. And then there's another one as well, which people work on because they got their money in Bitcoin. So they've got the time to do this. So, us talking about, well, if I could give up work, these people have given up work in the traditional sense and are spending their time developing the next monetary system. And these are some of the great minds around.
Perhaps as well as similarly when we were talking before we pressed record, talked about obviously the football managers effect, and we talked about the Amazon effect in terms of people go to a single place to buy everything and managers being hired and fired, with Pochettino just recently being sacked at Chelsea. But perhaps in Bitcoin, there's the Satoshi effect of if you create something, therefore you have to create it and it be perfect the first time. And perhaps that actually has a stagnant effect on developers and people creating things in the space, as opposed to creating, failing fast, and then trying again. People are just trying to bring things to the ecosystem and it be perfect first time, every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we talked about it numerous times, haven't we? About it's almost impossible that Satoshi wrote Bitcoin as good as he did, because
Yeah.
the way of writing software, once you put it out on the internet, you go from whatever group of people you were looking at and looking for bugs and looking for problems.
And holes in it.
Once you
Yeah.
throw it out on the internet, right, literally billions of people will take a look at that. And if there's a single problem, they will find it, which is why all websites and all companies just
Well,
launch early.
could he have been involved in all the various other cryptocurrencies which went on before?
Oh, of course, of course. But
Involved, but equally looked at them as well. And, eCash
Yeah.
was one, wasn't it?
there's,
Cryptography, of course.
but there's
Yeah.
still
And it could have
multiple
literally
versions that
those
he
those could have
created
been the
proof of work.
iterative, whereas Bitcoin was the end goal. Because, like I said, a lot of people just don't understand it is a base layer. This is a golden cart's being moved around, and you've got to have the Visa network on top to speed it up, which is fundamentally why the banks were invented, which we'll go into. I think it's in a few stories' time. And it's just, it's how do you develop those layers? Like I said, it won't be developed right the first time. And quite rightly, again, Bitcoin probably wasn't the first attempt, which we know of anyway.
Yeah, because I used Lightning last week actually, because it was the Bitcoin lessons guy who had managed to take that £4 of Bitcoin, ended up being worth 27. So I didn't have enough money in my Lightning account to actually pay this guy. Right? So I actually went, you know what, I'm going to use Kraken and I buy some Bitcoin on there, and they have Lightning integrated, and I'm going to send it from Kraken directly to the guy.
Mm.
And so the first time I did it, there was a problem, right? So the money left my account. The Lightning transaction was, I think it said processing or pending, something like that. Talking to the other guy, should have had it instantly. Didn't have it. Waited a couple of hours. Transaction fails, and now my money's gone from my account. He hasn't got his. I have to get onto Kraken support. They're all super confused. Clearly, the guys that I'm talking to didn't even barely know that Bitcoin had Lightning payments on Kraken. So they're talking to specialists. But long story short, got the money back, did another transaction, all went through fine, got paid instantly. So all well and good. But there's quite a chunky little process there, because the way the Lightning invoices are raised and then paid, and the integration into even big websites like Kraken, right? They explained it to me. There was something about the Lightning wallet that the guy was using wasn't quite compatible with Kraken's integration. It was on a different version or something. So I asked him for a different wallet, a more modern one, and then did it to that wallet, and it all went through. But these are like the little things that if you're just paying as you go for a coffee here, for a sandwich
Yeah.
there, having all these, like, all the different versions of the software, the APIs, the wallets, and the exchanges, and the shops and stuff, the merchants, just getting the right version of software of Lightning all integrated at the same time, the upgrade paths. Like this is it's the nuts and bolts, and there's lots of little kinks in there at the moment. And so yeah, you'll have a payment failed, but you do get the money back. If payment fails, it generally doesn't just go into the ether; it comes back to you. But yeah, I think we're still in the teething stages of Lightning, most definitely.
We're still in the teething phases, but you can still walk into a shop now that doesn't accept American Express. So you need Visa or MasterCard, you know? So, you know, your Lightning wallet might not be compatible with Kraken's Lightning wallet, but you need an alternative, as you would do today if you went to a restaurant that didn't take Amex.
Yeah, I think it's just compatibility, you know, it is ironing out the kinks, because you think this is what, 2017, it's still really early days, and you want something better than the fiat system, something which has instant settlement or faster settlement anyway.
Yeah, it's still pretty impressive that it works as good as it does as a pretty much, you know, it's a bit of a beta program, isn't it, really? It's a bit of a test bed. Most of the people using Lightning are doing it for these one-off transactions like I am. They're not using it day to day. So even the fact that after a couple of goes, you get that transaction through on Lightning is pretty incredible, really. But yeah, we're taking over. I'll move on to the next story. So this is one that I love these guys. Because I remember having this. It's one of our first stories, I think, ever on the pod, where someone was saying that the community of Bitcoin is so toxic, and it doesn't help. And I think at the time, you guys were going, maybe you shouldn't be as toxic. You know, you were kind of in that mindset. You know, like being toxic, maybe it isn't a good quality. Maybe it isn't bringing people in. You know, you're just new. Come here for 6 months to a year, and you'll realize how fucking bored to these back teeth you are of the same FUD going round and round. The people not being like genuine when they're criticizing Bitcoin. They're just being overly negative because they're part of the fiat machine. You know, it's like just come in for a little bit, and then you'll realize that being toxic is just the only way to be, because it's just some people get it. And even if they're saying the FUD and they don't realize they're repeating FUD, it's like they need to be snapped out of it by being harsh to them, because like talking to these people sensibly, they just keep having the next fiat talking point. You just got to go, have fun staying poor. Go fuck yourself. You know,
yeah.
You come back to me when you're ready, because you're not ready. I'm not going to waste my time trying to convert someone that's not ready. But yeah, so this is a tweet, right, from a guy called the Dividend Breeder. Straight away you go, oh, okay, here we are, some finance bro. So I recently asked the Bitcoin community to sell me on Bitcoin. Although there were some insightful replies, the majority of the Bitcoin community turned me off. They don't know how to sell their product. I won't be buying Bitcoin. Don't care if I miss out. I'll stick to my plan. Bro.
Oh, their product.
Their product. I know, like, oh.
Sorry, we'll expedite your complaint up to the CEO of Bitcoin. Oh, it's come down. He also tells you to go fuck yourself.
It's so difficult because, as we know, there needs to be hundreds of hours to kind of get Bitcoin and understand the fundamentals of it. And even though between us we've done thousands of hours, there's still elements of just this one concept that we don't know about. So to try and condense it down for somebody to understand, it's just so difficult. Hence the reason why we just simply say, if you don't get it, have fun staying poor. If you're not prepared to put in the time, because there isn't a high level 2-minute elevator pitch to understand what Bitcoin is. It's
the aptitude to learn. It's the aptitude to learn. If somebody came to me and genuinely wanted to know, I would sit down and try, you know, and explain my version of what I think it is and why I'm in it and why it means so much to me. But when it's like, if some, you know, imagine someone sitting you down now, guys, and just saying, sell Bitcoin to me. You'd be like, well, you can buy it for 56K if you want. You know, that's
I always answer it the same way. Someone says, tell me about Bitcoin or sell it to me, something along those lines. I say, you're not ready, you don't understand money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, come
It's
back
very,
to me
very
and
hard.
talk to me when you actually understand money, because you'll be searching for what I want to talk, what you want me to talk about Bitcoin. Then,
Yeah, because it's very hard to go, what 2 minute elevator pitch do you need? Because you need to understand the history of money, you need to understand the importance of investing, you need to understand inflation. You need to understand, to a certain extent, the entire kind of corrupt Keynesian economics. You probably also need some technical expertise. So which one of those do I need to hit on? Which
Yeah.
ones are you missing? And if it's all of them, I can't do that in 2 minutes.
No.
If it's even one of them, then I need to know which one, and maybe I can help you get forward. So I tend to just turn it around on them and go, what don't you get? Like, what's stopping you buying right now? And
I think this
see where they
equally,
are.
I think it equally leads us quite nicely into a later story as well, just for the seamlessness of it, is Lyn Alden, who tries to explain money in 30 minutes from her, I think it's a 600-page book that we own as well. It's like she's tried to condense that down, and that is still at a very, very high level, and it follows the path of Ray Dalio's principles video as well, which I think is around about 30 minutes or so, if not a bit longer. But he's then got a shorter version of that version as well. But ultimately, it's the book that he wrote. Sorry, no, it's not Principles. It's the book which I'm going to just it's The Changing World Order. That's the video that he made, but it's basically how the world works. And Lyn Alden does a great job in just giving a high level overview of the financial system and why it's broken, and why Bitcoin is the right money right now in comparison to fiat.
Yeah, I must admit, on this story, right, so we've got Lyn Alden, she's released a video. It's called the overview of broken money. I put this in the agenda, and then I had a baby 2 days later. I never listened to it.
Did you not?
No, so how good was it? Was it really good? Is it something you would recommend to share to others? 'Cause I'm going to listen to it anyway, but
Yeah,
I think so. I think it's almost like the first part of the Bitcoin standard.
Yeah.
It's kind of like mixed into what money actually is, and it talks about the banks as well. So it probably goes into the banks in a bit more detail than Bitcoin standard does. Just talking about, you've got banks which are ultimately a central way. It's more secure. It's easy to make payments, but then they're there with fractional reserves, inflation. It allows the government to do all sorts, such as stopping bank accounts. And so it comes up with the solution of Bitcoin in the end. So it's a good one to watch, but obviously it is 30 minutes to take out your time for it.
Equally, I think I would love to sit down with the kids as well and watch this, because it's in cartoon format. Yes, it's detailed as you would expect, as per Lyn, but equally, again, very similarly to how Ray Dalio's The Changing World Order cartoon is crafted and created. It really, it just hits home because of the truth of the matter as well. So, yeah, I think it's definitely
probably
one to watch.
If someone asks you to sell them Bitcoin, I think it's almost like the video which you'd send them, so you don't have to put in the effort, and just go, this will teach you a bit about money. If you don't understand from this, you just haven't bothered listening, you're busy playing on your phone.
Yeah, but equally, it will make them question themselves, like, this can't be true. Because if you know nothing about money and what the video teaches you, just like, for example, fractional reserve banking, you think, what, that actually happens? Well, we all know that happens because of our knowledge and depth of the financial markets, but to the average layperson, they wouldn't. And so that would then make them think, no, surely they hold money one-to-one, which we know they don't. And that's why we have bank runs and bank collapses. So there's a lot of principles in this video alone that might shock them to think, or just simply miss the point.
Does she go into a lot of the global stuff? I take it. I mean, that's the thing that Lyn's normally super powerful with. Going,
With the macroeconomics.
yeah, this is how Japan and US and Russia,
She just,
China.
but it's the same financial system ultimately.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just talking about international trade contracts and such, and how you know, when people want to trade abroad, that banks were used for that because they could come up with an IOU on both sides and understand that contract, which is why we had to move away from gold in the first instance, which kind of opened the door for paper money. And then obviously the paper money wasn't backed, and then you kind of like morphed into this government backed piece of shit.
Yeah, and also the petrodollar and how effectively money is denominated, rounded up ultimately, or to the US dollar as well, being the most strongest of the 166 currencies that are out there, but also reminding people that most currencies that are out there, very similar to this, are just, it's just pretty paper. And a lot of them are only good in that region because you can't take yen to then be taken to Portugal and used there, or euros in, I don't know, South Africa. It just doesn't work. It's only local currencies to that. So yeah, she does give a good high level overview of where things are, but equally she says this is just a high level overview and more details are in the book.
Yeah, what I like about Lyn Post as well is because she has such a mainstream following in finance. It isn't just Bitcoiners. When you look at the replies to her tweets, you've got a load of people coming in from the traditional finance world going, that's all fine, but you see their objections, and it's all like, oh, Bitcoin has zero value as a commodity. It's no intrinsic value. It's the same kind of things, but this is the reaction, right? So as good as the video is, you can see some of these people that are commenting have watched that and they're still coming back with their fiat talking points going, but on my checklist, it still doesn't tick all the boxes. So you're wrong.
It's so interesting you said that, because in my notes that I was making before this, I literally said the video was good. The replies were really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm just reading one here. Oh, it's literally, he doesn't understand money, but he's got a really smart profile. Graph Financials is his name. But BTC has zero value as a commodity because it cannot be used as input in any good or service, either physical, jewelry, chips. It's just like, why do you have to wear your money? That's not what money is. Money is a trade for your time, services, products, whatever else, or digital data for information products. It's just a monetary abstraction that lacks the essential goods and services circulation. He doesn't understand what money is, and his name is Graph Financials. I certainly wouldn't be taking any financial advice off him.
There are people that are replying in that video that haven't watched the video.
Yeah,
100%. Like, they've just seen the Bitcoin replies and straight in. They've not watched that. You can't watch that 30 minutes, and the one thing you take away from it is Bitcoin is bad. Like, how can you do that?
Yeah, I think they probably are just the kind of the classic reply guys that every time someone influential in Bitcoin says something positive, they've just got their default copy paste objection to Bitcoin, hoping to ride the coattails of a popular tweet going, no, come to me. I got the truth. Yeah, so that's always the problem, isn't it? Like, because if you debate someone that is clearly doing that, they're not got an open mind that are open to being won over. They've already made their mind up and they're just posting shit. And it's basically a shit post, but they might word it in a way that sounds like they're open to debate. But then when you reply to them, it's like, oh no, you're not open to debate, because your reply to this is clearly just you've got a down on Bitcoin for whatever reason. Maybe you don't get it, maybe you're paid to not get it,
or you think that your money should be based on what you can put into a plug as part of the wiring.
This is interesting though. So on Twitter, it shows her tweet has had 1 million views. On YouTube, however, the views are 188,000 just from 3 weeks ago from when she posted it. However, somebody who else I also watch and listen to and has a lot of credibility is a guy called Marco Whiteboard, and he just talks again about finance and what it means for people. But he made a video 4 years ago, which is called "What is Money and How Does It Work?" 4 years ago, 187,000 views. So Lyn has got 1,000 more views than his video from 4 years ago, and he's got a pretty big following as well. So people are listening, and it just shows the power and the reach of Lyn.
Yeah, it also shows that 80% of the people that have read the tweet didn't watch the video.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
what I got from reading the replies. I was like, you've just not watched the video. You don't watch this video, and
Yeah.
that's your go-to reply. It should be, oh shit, fractional reserve banking. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah. But don't worry, money has to be jewelry.
I know. Money wasn't fucking hardly ever jewelry other than the gold standard, and that's just it's an off the shoot kind of cherry on the cake random use case that gold happens to have. It happens to look pretty as well. That's why we used it as jewelry, but its other qualities is what made it money. The fact that it was also pretty didn't matter.
It's the exception that proves the rule. Like that the only time it's been jewelry was gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although to be fair, like back in the day, like Africa, they were on agui beads.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say people probably wore the smaller rye stones as well. Look, like the really small ones.
Yeah.
Not the ones that
the
are
really small ones.
I wouldn't want to wear one of those big rye stones.
Maybe they kill people with them as well, but
yeah.
So maybe it has been jewelry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is again, it's just a random offshoot of it's a coincidence. The fact that it can be used for jewelry would have not affected the price of an agri bead or of gold. It didn't affect it. It's nominal. It's its other qualities, the fact that it's hard to produce, has some scarcity that and easy to transmit. That's why I think money does tend to potentially be have a tendency to become jewelry, because it needs to be easy to transact with. So it needs to be relatively light, so you can carry it with you. So guess what? Beads and coins and rings and all that stuff, it flows along. That, oh right, if you've got money in your pocket, you might also want to wear that money in some shape or form, which is where agri beads and gold has come from. You might wear some of your beads, your best ones you wear as fashion accessories, but you'd have a load of beads in your pocket that you use for money. Same with gold. You might be wearing some gold as jewelry, but you don't use that to transact. That's just you being fashionable for whatever reason. The gold you want to spend is in your pocket, and that's what made it money. The fact that you wanted to put it in your pocket and people would transact with it. But
it's the fact this person's trying to position themselves as some like person in the financial know, who's obviously some form of financial advisor.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you don't understand what money is. You don't understand the fundamentals. Why would anyone want to invest with you?
These people are so stuck in the old world, aren't they? They're terrified that the world changes, where the classic investment and retirement portfolio isn't just the S&P 500, a load of government bonds, a load of cash, a bit of
emerging markets.
Yeah, and everything he knows is based on that. And if that Bitcoin is basically telling him that is all wrong, terrifying for him to hear that. It's like, no.
But you need the government bonds to balance your portfolio, because ultimately, it'll never go down with those if you have so many. So about 80% government bonds and 20% stocks. That would be a balanced portfolio, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Can all be summarized in COPE. It's the same as the taxi drivers did it to Uber. Yeah, all the way down. The Kodak did it to the digital camera. The hotels did it to Airbnb. The people being disrupted that are making money. We call them rent seekers in Bitcoin. So it's the people that are kind of profiteering off the scam and off the inefficiency. As the scam and the inefficiency gets exposed and the new version comes up, the rent seekers that are essentially blood-sucking off the inefficiencies of the old system, they all fight the new one to the death, because they're not relevant in the next world. Like they are the inefficiency. That's why a financial advisor even exists, right? Because of the inefficiency of fiat, you need financial advisors just to be able to retire sensibly. Because unless you are a financial investing pro, you'll work all your life and get to 80 and still be skin. And you go, what the fuck happened there? It's like, yeah, because you didn't learn how to play the system. So you have to employ these people to help you through it. In Bitcoin land, you don't need these guys because now inflation doesn't exist. Money holds its value. All you need to know is, can you store and save your Bitcoin securely yourself? The answer is yes. You're good to go. You will retire. Work hard, earn your sats, and you'll be able to retire whenever you want. And the value of that Bitcoin isn't going to decrease by 5 to 10% a year to force you back into the game and need some form of government handout, i.e., a state pension, just to keep food on the table when you're not earning money anymore. All that goes away. So these financial advisor guys are clearly very threatened by Bitcoin, but they need people to stay in that world. Their entire job is eradicated when we go onto a Bitcoin standard because no one's going to need financial advisors again. Let's move on.
Financial advice that you need is more of these videos. These pods, that's what you need.
Yeah, it's kind of
And
the
equally
thing is that once you're on a Bitcoin standard, like investing will be such like a niche activity. It's like something that because you don't need to do it to retire early. If money didn't erode and inflation didn't exist and taxation wasn't as high, the average person could retire in their 30s or 40s if all they wanted to do was own your own home, put food on the table, and grow a family. That's when you
I
could
say
retire.
as long as you didn't have a pointless government which takes 60-70% of all your earnings.
Yeah, and then also inflates your money away at 10% a year.
Yeah.
It's just, of course, it takes until you're 65 to retire in that environment, and then you need a government handout. Even then, even though you've worked the majority of your life, you still need the government to throw you a couple of grand a month just to survive. It's just
talking about rent seekers. Our next story, the Rothschilds.
Yes.
So
hold on.
even vet.
I've taken us out of context,
Oh.
sorry, because I tried to seamlessly go from the no coiners to the Lyn Alden explains money in 30 minutes. So we need to go back to our favorite topic, which is Inflation Weekly, which again carries on from Lyn as well. So the US bailing out Japan to bail out themselves is effectively the transparency of the House of Cards and the Ponzi scheme that is going on. And obviously stuff that we always talk about, which is US bonds. So at the moment, Lyn pointed out in one of her tweets from May 8th, I appreciate we missed last week, but we're bailing out ourselves, she says, by making it so Japan doesn't have to sell their massive hoard of US treasuries. And
is this because no one could buy the amount of treasuries which they've got, or potentially it'd just be China?
Well, they're going to flood the market. So yeah, so I mean the story largely is that Japan are in the shitter, which you've raised numerous times, Dr. Your 10% on here. I mean you've been following it probably more than most.
Yeah.
And so Japan are in the shitter, and they need to kind of prop up the price of their own currency, and they are huge holders of US bonds. So a good way of them propping up the yen is to sell all those bonds and throw the cash and buy their own currency back off themselves to basically mitigate the amount of people that are selling the yen and flooding to something else. So they need to plug the hole. So
it seems like a good way to protect your currency in your country is own a shitload of US bonds at the moment.
Well, yeah. Because in this example, what's happened is that the US have seen the fact that Japan are about to dump a load of US bonds on the market, so they're going to go. They've essentially authorized a big print of a load of extra money to the tune of 50 to 100 billion per month to buy their own bonds back off Japan. So essentially what it means is that no sale really happens because it's printed money out of thin air. So they get bought off that not with real US dollars, that, well, I say real, but just previously printed US dollars. They don't want the dollar to take a hit on yen, so they just print the additional money up to 100 billion a month. They will buy those treasuries off Japan with fake inflated money. Japan then get to use that to then underpin their fake currency. The only people that suffer in both examples are the Japanese will suffer further inflation. The US citizens will also suffer further inflation, but the countries still can put forward the facade that their currencies are strong. That's literally what's happening.
Correct. And it just continues to kick the can down the road until eventually someone has to pick all of this up.
It's just people with fake money trying to underpin it with more fake money, and then they print more money to underpin. This is it's the house of cards, isn't it? This is literally a Ponzi scheme, right? You just the scam just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, because it's kind of nuts. Like, this is like literally the US government have printed money out of thin air, as in these treasuries. Then Japan have also printed money out of thin air and brought some of their thin air and put it over here. But now they want to sell their thin air, and they're worried that the thin air selling is going to impact the price of their thin air thing. So they print more money to buy that thin. Like, it's thin air currency inception here. You're like, is there any value when I track all this back? Was there anything of value at the end of this? If I say I was to buy this as a private citizen, if I brought this thing that they're exchanging in some shape or form, if I ended up owning it, what do I have? You just go, I have nothing. I have literally, this only has value between these two countries that are pretending this thing is real. It's
maybe that's our biggest video to date is the Bitcoin song, but maybe then there needs to be an animation of buying thin air, countries buying thin air, and kind of playing this out visually, because you just verbally explaining that, it sounds ludicrous, but that's exactly what's happening. But maybe
if it was a film and someone was presenting it as a script, you would be like, this is ridiculous. This is just crazy. Like, who would do that? It's not a thing.
It gets even better because it's not the country printing out; it's the central bank, and then there's like the creation of more bonds in order to back that currency which comes out. So they're creating more bonds, which gets them further into the situation. But then they claim that the central bank is completely separate, and obviously there's a conspiracy theory that the central banks belong to one family. So the fact is, the central bank, the countries don't owe debt to themselves; they owe debt to one family in the world, which then makes it even more insane. But then it's also, if it is the country which owes money to itself through creating these bonds, then how the fuck can a country be in debt? By how many trillion is it now? 8 trillion or something? Or is it way more?
Oh, well, America, freaking loads more.
Yeah, whatever.
Fucking loads more.
Well, but America's at 34 trillion right now in terms of their debt.
So it's 30
and counting.
So it's like you got option one, it's 34 trillion in debt to itself because it owns its central bank, or it's 34 trillion in debt to one family, just like every other country in the world is in debt to this one family who owns all the central banks.
Yeah,
that is what makes it really insane. Pick your choice of what you think sounds the most ludicrous, and tell me which one is a conspiracy theory.
This is never going to fly in Hollywood if it's a script.
I was just about to say, it sounds like a film. We were talking about ideas before.
Exactly. The idea is,
I'm going to pitch a film for someone, right? We create a country, we create a currency.
The Big Short.
We do need our version of the Big Short, because that was insane, right? The Big Short, Brad Pitt, fucking Margaret Robbie, Ryan Reynolds, but the whole shebang. They literally did, and they did not pull any punches. They did not fiat wash it. There was no fake narrative put over that. They literally went through the financial collapse of the housing market in 2008. They exposed fucking everything with A-listers, top budget. The film was not like an indie thing that normally is for this topic, which is super insightful, a little bit like Lyn's, but doesn't have A-class Hollywood actors in it. The Big Short has all of that, and no one gave a shit. I honestly think the majority of people that watched that thought it was fiction. And you
Yeah.
go, it's literally
There's a
it's
statement at the end where it says, and it's happening again.
Yeah.
Like it was reimagined, wasn't it? And they just started doing the same thing, but in a slightly different way.
yeah.
It still baffles me that it got commissioned and that it's out there. It's just mind blowing.
Yeah, it's like they're laughing at us, aren't they? Like literally,
Yeah.
we can fund a Hollywood movie with your top actors in it,
Yeah.
and literally tell the world what we're doing, and that we're
Yes.
still doing it, and nothing will happen, no change will happen.
Yeah.
And they proved
And it's a good film. It's not like we're not going to make it shit. You know, like it's not getting a 3 on IMDb. Like,
No.
No, I like literally if I was going to make a film about like how to expose the financial system, like that would be it. 2008, like real life, like touch people. I wouldn't do it about Bitcoin because Bitcoin hasn't touched most people's lives yet, but everyone has property in some shape or form. So show them that. The Big Short is it.
yeah.
But I've shown like many people that film, and most people come away going, "Yeah, it's a decent film." Did you get it? Did you get it?
Did they actually watch
Like,
it?
get what?
Yeah.
You know, like at the
It's
end,
the
they even
future
have
girlfriend qualification film.
Oh,
You
it
can
really
watch a
was.
film with that, and they get it done
Yeah.
live.
I love I love like the fake ending of that film where they go, oh yeah. So after that, we had mass regulation. All the bankers got imprisoned. You know, that was never going to happen again. We now have a strong financial market. You know, people were verified properly to take on a sensible amount of debt. The entire, and they go, not really.
Yeah.
Not a single person went to prison. We're still doing it now.
It was one, wasn't it? One person, one like trader went to prison.
Yeah,
like
and he
some
was a
underling
low-level
dude,
pleb.
like super low
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
Basically picked the janitor and went, "You're fucked, mate." You
Yeah.
know?
He needed one sacrificial lamb, yeah, which was just, and if anything, he didn't do anything that really contributed to the crash. He was just a rogue trader that freaking lost 28 million in a day or something stupid. Like, so yeah, so he would have gone to prison anyway. He was just being reckless. Like, that was just a coincidence, but not a single CEO, not a single board or exec member of any bank saw any prison time. They got fines that were the equivalent of something like a week's profit. And you go, so no lessons were learned. And now we're doing it again, and we're living it. And you just go, because even that ending, like they didn't need to do the ending on The Big Short that good. They could have just exposed the problem and then watched it crash. Have the guys that we've been following make a load of money. You know, Christian Bale, the main kind of like hero of the film, kind of thing. Like he predicted everything, was told he was an idiot the whole film, and then at the end got proven correct. You just go off to the sunset and just roll credits, but then doing the fake ending and then going no. It's all happening again. No one got punished. No one learned any lessons. This is how corrupt the system is. You go, it's still people don't get it.
But it's a good film.
It's epic. I absolutely love The Big Short.
I do.
So when you talk about like a film, that's why it just intimidates me. Because I'm like, how much of an impact is a film going to have? Because it's like we have that one, and it had zero impact on making financial change. Just a load of people went to watch it, were entertained, and went home and got a mortgage. It's that and up their payments into their pension. And you go, didn't work, did it? And that was with these A-listers. The storytelling is immense. Like I couldn't make a film even close to as good as that, especially with the huge budget they must have had. If you do that on the existing financial system with a Bitcoin twist, you go, even if I managed to get Brad Pitt, Ryan Reynolds, Margot Robbie, all that to fucking turn up and fucking do this thing, how many Bitcoins do we get at the end of it? I think we just get a really good film that a load of people go and watch and go, that was great, loved it. What are you going to do now? You're buying Bitcoin, you're getting rid of your fiat? Nah.
Yeah, but we could buy more Bitcoin with it.
If the film was profitable?
Yeah.
So I'd have to spend some Bitcoin first to get Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, and Christian Bale on.
Steve Carell, let's not
Steve
forget,
Carell,
and Brad Pitt.
so
I'm just
good.
looking at it.
I've seen it.
All-star cast.
Yeah, 7.8 on IMDb.
Yeah, like I said, decent film.
Yeah.
Wonder what it grossed.
Just trying to find out. Well, whilst I'll do that, yeah, let's go on to the next story as well, because appreciate Dr. Evil 10% has a bedtime.
To be fair, I think the next one got deleted, didn't it? Venezuela.
Yeah, so no, the
Hey,
US trying to criminalize Bitcoin development is where we're up to.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, so this
It's
is
my fault. I took us out
You
of
took us
sync.
to Rothschild. Yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of covered Rothschilds, but yeah, we'll just quickly touch on the US trying to criminalize Bitcoin development, and it seems that US senators say that Joe Biden's Department of Justice is threatening to criminalize Bitcoin software development in America and sends them a letter to reverse course.
The thing is, you'll always get senators and departments trying to do all sorts. It's so uncoordinated for a country. So it's when it actually gets approved, when it's actually going that course, you need to worry. So like at the moment, it's just so uncoordinated. You've got people trying to make a name for themselves by raising something that most of the time it just means nothing in the US. It's just a shit show of, well, I always say democracy, but it's not really. It's a shit show of bureaucracy.
Yeah, it does show though that this, because obviously this is the Department of Justice that this letter's been written to. So this is some existing US sitting senators that have basically said that the Department of Justice is looking like they are going to criminalize just coding in Bitcoin, and as in coding and contributing to the network and putting code in, that would be a criminal offense. So these senators have got together, written a letter to the DOJ saying, we think this is wrong. Oh, this is Cynthia Loomis. Yeah, okay. So it's so she's the pro Bitcoin woman. We've had Cynthia on numerous stories. I'm not sure who the other guy is. So fair play for them for putting themselves forward. Yeah, actually, yeah, I'm following Cynthia Loomis. She's got laser eyes, and yeah, so she's a long time advocate of Bitcoin. But it just shows, I guess, like the different forms of attack. You've got quite a few attacks probably on Bitcoin just on this docket for stories, where it's you can obviously do it via taxation, you can do it via regulation. And regulation, you go, well, what are you going to regulate? And it's the mining and potentially the software development. And obviously also then the transmission of Bitcoin through either privacy services, how much Bitcoin you transmit. And this is just yet another potential attack that by developing and helping the Bitcoin network, that makes you a criminal. So owning Bitcoin is not criminalized at all, right? They haven't gone for that yet. But by criminalizing everything that contributes to Bitcoin to help it exist, like mining, sending, helping maintain the network, if you criminalize all these things, they kind of know what they're doing. It's not the blanket ban. Instead, it's death by 1,000 cuts. And yeah, fair play for them for at least writing a letter. I doubt if they're going to somehow criminalize the coding and software development of Bitcoin. I'm sure that's going to get passed if it's not just just a bit of a propaganda of them just kind of scaremongering. But and as always as well, the way this letter is written, it's like they're not just writing a single bill to ban people contributing to software development of Bitcoin. It's all part of a bigger bill, and it's like 3 lines in this huge like 10,000 page document that just goes, hold on, this bit here could be used to criminalize the software development on Bitcoin. Is that what you mean? And they know what it means. They like passing these huge bills that are very big and all encompassing, and then they get voted through, and then suddenly we find out what that means years down the line when they start using that bill to prosecute people.
Yeah.
And you suddenly realize, oh shit, we should have fought that years ago. Now it's come into law, they can prosecute us against it.
Trying to get ahead of the curve by doing it now.
Yeah, because the classic way of getting all this through is, by contributing to this Bitcoin network, you are allowing money laundering, which second you say that means that's child trafficking, it's paedophilia, it's, sexual exploitation. Like, just list the worst crimes available. They all get tied back into Bitcoin if we allow a single pound of it to be used as money laundering. And then suddenly that means all these crimes are therefore available. So you just go, we're going to stop the development of like child trafficking and sex trafficking websites. You go, well, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But they go, oh, that's the clause that we're going to ban Bitcoin on, because if you're coding on that network, therefore you're allowing this, that means it's a criminal offense. You go, nah, fuck off. That Bitcoin is just a decentralized money network. Of course, all activity will go through it. We don't censor any transactions. So if someone is doing that type of activity, of course they can transact in Bitcoin, but that's just the use case for money. That isn't what our network is used for. And they know that. And that's why they're trying to sneak these little things through under the rug.
And they've never transacted in the dollar. So, yeah.
Exactly. If you use the same kind of principles against the US dollar, then they would want to need to shut down the US dollar down tomorrow. It's the number one currency for all those things.
Literally.
Yeah. Why?
So, just for some understanding, you tell me that Stalin, Hitler, didn't use Bitcoin.
Mad,
It's crazy, that, isn't it?
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was under the impression that Bitcoin was a root of all evil.
I'm not entirely sure they use the dollar either, though. So.
Well, they would have in part their currencies, but the whole point is about fiat currency, government issued. Like, they're all heavily involved in that, and it allowed them mass murdering. Like, Hitler printed a shitload of cash. Stalin printed a shitload of cash.
Hitler got in because Germany printed a shitload of cash, and then they printed a shitload more, and then they printed a shitload more. It was the start.
Yeah, exactly. So it's they had, what's it called, the
Mark.
No, the what they called it when it was basically crashing because they had to print so much to repay France.
Oh, the winter of discontent.
Oh no, they call it like the Weem or something, but I can't remember what it is exactly. But anyway, coming into tangents.
You're trying to bait me into a Hitler defense rant, and I'm not going to buy it.
I told you.
One whiskey short. He's one whiskey, one more.
Right. Do we want to move on to something which might cause a bit of an outrage?
The Rothschilds.
Which I tried to lead us into earlier, but you pulled me back to Inflation Weekly.
You couldn't help it. Yeah, you're just eager beaver.
Yeah, the whiskey's going down. I can see the rant almost starting, and us getting banned off YouTube. So this is, I suppose, interesting in a way because the Rothschilds, well, one of the Rothschild companies have bought some Bitcoin, but it's hardly surprising, is it? Because the Rothschilds own everything, apparently.
Exactly.
So the conspiracy theories tell me. I don't agree with that
well,
though.
it's provable that Jesus, like we did the Follow the Money episode, didn't we? In it,
yeah,
all the money, or the 10-20% of every company is owned by BlackRock and Vanguard. And when you look at the ownership of BlackRock and Vanguard, they're owned by the Rothschilds. So you go, therefore they own.
Oh, no, was it BlackRock is owned by the Bank of America, and the Bank of America is owned by mysterious benefactors who go back to various different companies, which lead back to the Rothschilds.
Yeah.
So it's not so direct.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It all pings about, but eventually you end up on one family or a couple of families. To be fair, at the top of all these huge chains, you just have a couple of families: Rothschilds, George Soros, and you have a couple of families. And so what's interesting, I think, about this story is essentially it's that the Rothschilds have bought $3.6 million worth of Bitcoin in an ETF, of course. Of course, they're not taking it. But I guess the only thing really newsworthy about this is the Rothschilds, as we know, already own basically everything. So they own BlackRock completely. So every bit of dollar that's sat in an ETF that has built Bitcoin with it, they already indirectly own that. They don't need to publicly buy Bitcoin under their own name. They've already managed to scam thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people to buy Bitcoin in their ETF that they indirectly own. So if the time comes and Bitcoin becomes the currency of the globe, they can just steal all that and they continue as normal, right? Their scam is already being they're nicely building up their defensive moat on what if Bitcoin does become the thing? We don't want to buy it and pump the price. How do we do this? I know we'll get the morons out there to exchange their time and value for fake dollars, and then they will buy Bitcoin, and we will use that to buy to steal it in the future. Like, it's a genius little plan. So the only thing that's surprising really is that the Rothschilds, under their actual real life name, went and bought 3.5 million worth of Bitcoin themselves, because then it kind of does associate themselves directly with it, which is interesting because we know they run the world in the current system. So why are they directly kind of support the direct challenger? The only thing I can think is this is probably a mistake, and that someone was just spraying money and accidentally bought a little bit of the Bitcoin ETF or something, and they're like, "Oh shit, it's got picked up, and the news have now got it." Or maybe they're just lolling, right? Because as we know, they literally have trillions. So buying 3.6 million it's less than dropping a penny on the street for the average person. It's less than that. So it's a meaningless amount for them, but it's interesting that their name has been associated with directly buying Bitcoin, and they put it out in obviously they have to publish their kind of financial movements every quarter and stuff, as the Rothschilds, as a publicly limited company. So in the last one that had in it, they bought 3.6 million of the Bitcoin ETF, and so part of me thinks it might be a mistake. Half of me thinks that maybe they wanted to do this just to see what would happen or something, but I don't know. What do you think? It's probably meaningless, but what do you think?
It's one of those just to watch for sure. I don't think these people do anything by mistake. I think, everything is super calculated. Also, I don't think it's the first time. I feel like anything that they will have done Bitcoin wise will have happened much sooner than now, because they are so close to the money, and the amount of increase in Bitcoin, it would have been on their radar, obviously, much earlier than now. And so maybe this is just something that's made the news, but I think they've been doing so well before this, because as we've again mentioned, they own 10% of everything. And so the signals would have come back to them well before this point.
That's why I think their main play would be the ETF, right? Because you create the ETF, that's how you basically get 5 to 10% of the Bitcoin in circulation. You do that via an ETF through other people's money. And sometimes like buying it direct themselves with their own kind of profits via this Rothschild company, it almost looks to me like the person probably in charge of this fund, a buy of 3.6 million wouldn't even need approval from anyone that mattered. It's like you're probably talking 100 million plus for even someone with the name Rothschild in their name to look at you, to go, just anything below that, fucking do it. We don't care. Just you're a pleb. You're probably a very high pleb, very high paid pleb that is just designed to make it look like we run a hedge fund. It doesn't matter. Like, we don't care what goes up, what goes down. When you own 20 to 30% of everything, we stay rich. The entire market can crash by 99%. We still own freaking 2/3 of that market. So what are you gonna fucking do? We are the bank kind of thing. So that's why I've got a slight inkling that it might literally just be like an intern that just got a little bit above his station, bought a bit of an ETF, and then it went on their statement like, motherfucker, what are you attaching our name to this for? Or maybe it's purposeful and they're trying to use this to kind of hide behind the fact that, no, we're supportive of Bitcoin. But such a low amount of money makes me almost think it is just an admin error. But
well, let's keep, again, I'm sure we are getting to the stage now where, because of the ETFs and the people that have purchased Bitcoin via the ETFs within the next couple of weeks or months, we will know who those individuals are because they have to publicly publish the names and the records of them. So I think we might see more notable people that are out there, and that could equally pump the price as well.
Yeah. I guess what the only thing that I think that makes this slightly interesting is now just to go, okay, they bought 3.6 million. If this is a purposeful investment strategy from the Rothschilds, are they going to start pumping to say the like volumes? Where they're going to try and buy billions of it. That's the only thing that is slightly interesting because it's again that'll be number go up if the Rothschilds get involved in kind of competing for that. But I don't think they will. They're too smart for that, which is why they've got the BlackRock ETF. They've literally got the plebs to buy it for them, and then they get to steal it whenever they feel like stealing it.
Yeah.
There's two questions there. Why would they do that if they've got it through BlackRock, and why would they do it in an ETF?
Yeah.
Like just buy it if you're going to buy it.
Yeah. Well, I guess buying it through the ETF, they're marketing their own product, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess
in a way.
So.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not got the same risks that me and you have buying it in the ETF. It's like, oh, but what if we don't get our money out when the whole FIST system crashes? Well, guess who gets settled first? If the market crashes, I can guarantee the Rothschilds get their money out first compared to like me and you buying some money in a BlackRock ETF. Like, we'll be last and they will be first out. So it's less risky.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe that's literally it. They're probably just marketing their Bitcoin ETF and the BlackRock ETF with this. It's a cheap ad, 3.6 million got them global coverage of their BlackRock ETF that they don't own, of course. It's just but yeah. Because this is literally the equivalent of them putting 10 pence into this ETF. But off the back of it, they got a load of media coverage. And who knows how many tens, if not hundreds of millions of other people's money came into their BlackRock ETF this way.
Yeah.
Probably just that.
Right. We're missing the Venezuela bans Bitcoin mining. So we're on to penultimate story. Craig Wright gets divorced. And we're not sure, but maybe sure, if it's totally legit or not. So he's been a regular feature on the pod for the last couple of weeks now, in terms of Craig Wright. But it seems to be that his wife, Ramona Wright, has come off one of the businesses as a director. Craig was dismissed as a director for the company RCJBR Limited 2 weeks ago, and that Ramona has taken full control as the director. Now, when we see moves like this made, it's sometimes seen to be a ploy to, of course, wash your hands of assets which you own, passing it to the spouse, yet you will therefore still have indirect control of it via the spouse. But it means that the asset is protected because it's not owned by you, the individual that's typically being sued. And at this moment in time, everybody's on Craig, or Craig has lost the lawsuit and therefore has to be responsible of paying the money or the assets back. So what do you guys think of this one?
Well, this is, we actually spoke about this. I think it was probably 2 months ago because we saw Craig signing over a shit ton of his businesses, random accounts, shell companies to his wife. And that was when it looked like there was a guilty verdict coming in against himself. And then true enough, that verdict was read. So now what he's done, like 2 months before, he signed over a load of his financial assets to his wife. And then 2 months later, he gets found guilty and then now needs to pay millions upon millions worth of damages to the people he's been suing and all the court fees. So literally on the day of the judgment, he gets divorced from his wife. So now it's suddenly all these financial assets, not only were they his wife, but if they were married, they could still have that argument of that's joint custody essentially of the asset, so it's
Yeah.
payable. But now they're divorced, it means those assets disappear. They are now with his wife. They are not under his ownership. So therefore, if he's bankrupt, essentially has zero money, he cannot pay anything. So clearly, this is Craig being Craig. He's an absolute rat. He's a fraud, and this is a fake divorce, clearly, because I think the original post on here was kind of almost cheering that Ramona has left Craig. You know, oh my God, this is drama. They got divorced. This is like, you know, they thought it was like a gossip story, but in reality, it's not gossip. This is very calculated. It's planned. It's moving financial assets to someone that you're connected with
Because
closely, you're allowed to do, and then you divorce them when they are due, and then he doesn't have to pay his debts. I don't think anyone expects Craig to pay his debts, and this is yet another way that he's going to get around it. But I just look at this and go, I hope this doesn't work. I hope the judge kind of sees what he's doing and fucking goes, you know what? You're going to dodge the financial penalties of this. Therefore, the only thing that you have of value is your time. We're taking that from you. Imprison that fucker. Put him in prison for a couple of years because he ain't going to pay this money. We fucking know it.
Yeah.
So put him in prison. Like this is so obvious. It should get called out, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, I guess.
From the sentiment of what the judges have been like, though, they certainly seem to be, kind of on the money to
Yeah.
these types of antics. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they were like, okay, we've seen what you tried to do. You tried to be slick. Okay, let's try this one. Let's see how you get out of this when you're behind bars.
Yeah, it just depends what they can do because I've been impressed with the judges as well. They've been very
Yeah,
frank and honest and gone, this guy is not Satoshi, which
correct.
that's like really surprised me that any of them said that because I didn't think they were going to ever say categorically, is he or isn't he? They're just going to go, he has not proven that he is. That is as far as they would go. But they've actually gone the full hog and gone, this guy categorically is not Satoshi. Which is why we always laugh about the fact that now he's the only person on the planet that definitely isn't Satoshi. Or more likely to be Satoshi than the guy that claims he's Satoshi. Because none of us have been proven to not be Satoshi. There's a chance we are. But one person on the planet has been proven to not be, and that is Craig Wright. But on this one, the fact that he's hiding his assets, putting it because clearly, like converting a load of your business assets and your financial assets to your wife, and then divorcing that, it's a very known way of creating these loopholes.
Yeah.
It's very public in the financial system. So even if the judge calls it out for what it is, which is essentially hiding your assets somewhere that can't be gained, and because if he still lives with her or whatever, or has shared properties, then it would all get unraveled, right? That this is just a divorce of convenience, and really you are still married, but you're just pretending you're not legally, so these assets can't be seized. But who knows if Craig falls into any of these traps? Who knows if anyone's going to go after him that hard? Is anyone going to even investigate whether he's still living with his wife or not? I'd imagine he probably is, because he obviously is not divorced. They clearly are still together. It's just he's doing this to hide his financial assets. But I'm not sure what judge could call this out, because when you follow the letter of the law, if it says someone being sued for money can't claim money off a divorced wife, then he's clear, isn't he? He's in the clear. But
Yep.
you can only sue him for the assets he still has. And if Craig has moved them all to his wife and then divorced that wife, you can't claim them. So he kind of wins on that point. And legally, can anyone put him in prison for doing that purposefully? I don't know. Because it's any judge looking at it knows exactly what he's done, but does he have the remit to call that out? I don't know.
Again, one of those where, again, the rulings have been quite quick on this. So perhaps if we stick close to the story, we'll find out.
It's one of them, isn't it? You know, like if you're applying for a green card or something, you know, like
Yeah.
a visa inside a country, judges can call this stuff out. and go, yeah, we know that you have met, we
So-
know you legally are married and all this stuff, but they look at it and go, objectively, this is a marriage of convenience.
Yeah, it's a sham marriage. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you got paid. This person wants the visa. Once they're
Yeah.
married, you're going to get divorced in the next couple of years, and this person will go off and live their life. You'll go off and live your life. This is not a real marriage. We need that type of common sense to come into this to go, this is not a real divorce. This is a
Correct.
divorce of convenience to avoid these financial penalties.
Divorce. Yeah.
So they should go, the financial assets of these two people should still be together. Even though legally they're now separate, they should be together. And we
Yeah.
take from this estate as we see fit and pay off, the people that deserve to be paid. And yeah, but obviously we know that's why Calvin Ayre went running about 6 months ago. He knew he was going to lose and didn't want to be associated, so he ran off. And then in the near term, Craig started moving his assets, and because just the scumbag thing is that the kind of debts that are probably owed are not huge in Craig and Calvin Ayre world, but the people that have had to defend themselves, so like Hodornaut, I know it's to the tune of millions, and a lot of that came in donations, but I know he put his own money in. So just him getting his court fees back is, it's only a small thing. It's probably 2 or 3 million when you really count it all up. And then there's Pedro, he's probably owed a couple of million from Craig, and there's a load of core developers that have also defended themselves via donations and stuff like that. You're probably looking at, I don't know, 10, 20 million, which Calvin Ayre is a billionaire, right? He has thousands of million. And this is 20, 30, I don't know. Let's just go, say it's 50 million. They could just pay this off and have a load of people that have paid that 50 million to lawyers to defend themselves against Craig. And they're going, we could just pay that off, but we'd just rather not. Let's just convert all your assets. I'll remove myself 6 months before you lose. Craig, you sign all your assets over to your wife and then divorce her the day the judgment is due. So they don't get a penny. He's just, I guess, what do you expect from a scumbag? And that's what he's doing.
Yeah. I mean, a quick Google does suggest that a sham divorce is essentially fraud and you can be done for it. So
Hopefully he gets caught.
We can hope, but I think we're just speculating at the moment. And obviously, he's going to have expensive lawyers, which will mysteriously appear with some kind of funds.
I mean, all you'd need is a separate house and not to live there, and blah blah blah. And then how do you prove it otherwise?
He's probably got numerous residences as it is.
I've moved into the chateau over here.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? That's like legally, what do you need to be like legally separated? And
Correct, yeah.
A different property and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, it's a piece of piss, isn't it? You just do that.
Yeah.
And how can you prove that you're still together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't. How can you prove a sham divorce?
I'm just visiting. You know, she goes there, I'm just visiting.
You're seeing the
kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know if they have any kids. I know she's Filipino.
They do now.
Yeah, they do now. Oh, they will.
Yeah, I don't really believe in like financial crimes being punished via prison time, but like I make the exception for Craig. Because the thing is, like, I actually was reading, I think Hodornaut put something up, as either today or yesterday, and the judge goes into the fact that he has committed contempt of court. You know, the amount of lies that Craig told, the judge articulates it very clearly that he's going, the evidence that was submitted were complete forgeries. Craig's defense of the fact that these were hacked and changed is nonsensical. Clearly, Craig is lying. This is contempt of court. So this should carry a significant prison sentence. But I know there's something weird in the justice system where if you're the one being prosecuted for a thing and you just lie your way out of it and still get found guilty, whatever the punishment is for that crime is what you get. And you don't get the additional, well, hold on, you got proven to be in contempt of court there and you were lying the entire fucking time. And that comes with a 20-year prison sentence. So there's this weird, like, problem or just loophole that contempt of court only seems to get prosecuted very occasionally. But
you got to prove it beyond like reasonable doubt. haven't you, though? So it's like, if he maintains the lie, you would have to like prove it.
Yeah, but
So as long as
that's what's been that's what happens in the court, though, right? Because he's got a load of evidence that says he's Satoshi.
yeah,
At the end of that, they go, "You are not," and the judge goes, "He categorically is not." Therefore, that means everything he said is lied,
yeah,
is a
it's
lie,
influence
which
versus
is literally like it's been proven in the court of law that he lied because they are saying he is not when he is saying the entire time he was. So whatever there's no like crime to say you're Satoshi and not be Satoshi, right? That isn't a criminal offense. That's just you being a dick. But so there's a financial payment that needs to go to the other person
yeah,
that incurred a load of costs to defend themselves. So that's the crime that's going to getting paid out. But during all that, there was a contempt of court the entire time, but that never gets raised. It's just no, the financial penalty is what the punishment is. The contempt of court during is just overlooked.
maybe they go back to it.
It's I don't know. It's a
don't
weird
know.
one, and it's something that I've struggled with ever since I like was studying this Craig Wright thing and just going this because what it does is muddy every single court case ever, right? Every single time someone defended themselves against a crime and they got ultimately found guilty of that crime, one of their charges has to be a contempt of court because they also lied during that trial because they've been found guilty of the thing and they were saying they didn't do the thing. So whatever the thing is, you get that prison sentence, then you also get this contempt of court charge put on top because the two come together, right? But contempt of court is never put on top. It's just contempt of court only happens like if you're a witness or something, and that's when they get you on that. But yeah, I don't know. It's why you need to talk to someone that's legally qualified to like go, why isn't contempt of court always a
Applied.
charge during?
Maybe the prosecution has to go for it as a point, and they just don't bother.
Yeah.
So unless somebody's physically prosecuting you for something, then is it a thing?
It's weird because the only reason that I was even thinking about this is because Craig stood up in the Oxford interview that he did in front of all the students. And they were taking the piss out of him and trolling him. And he stood up and went, "If I am not Satoshi, I'll be proven in the court of law a contempt of court that carries a prison sentence of 20 years. So this is how seriously I'm taking this. So how dare you question me not being Satoshi and just doing this on a whim?" And I always remember that and go, all right, I'll enjoy this then. When you get found to not be Satoshi, you go in prison for 20 years. And it's kind of all happened. He's moved his financial assets away and there's no contempt of court. And he's just going to walk away like scot-free, really. It's just fucking annoying. But,
You want those 20 years, every minute of them.
yeah. Craig
Yeah.
promised me those 20 years.
Yeah,
I
you
want to
promised
see
me.
him.
Yeah, you promised me you were Satoshi. You let me down on that, right?
Yeah.
Give me the 20 years.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Someone should just play the judge that clip and go, look, here he is. Here he is in Oxford Uni saying if he got found not a Satoshi, he would serve 20 years. Give him the 20 years. He wants it.
Mail it to him.
All right, last story of the evening. And again, we always say this, don't trust what people say, trust what they do. But Andrew Tate goes out on a limb to say that he's going to YOLO in 100 million all on Bitcoin. Now, Tate has got a huge following amongst men of a certain age and category, and maybe this will pump the price. Maybe the recent pumping price is Andrew Tate pumping 100 million into Bitcoin. But this was a tweet that was raised. Oh, I'm just trying to find the date. The 15th of May. We're now nearly a week on. Have we seen any further evidence?
Yeah, I get why he's saying it, but obviously we've got to wait for proof to be definitive about it. Check it's not some kind of marketing strategy. But the fact is that he's pretty much been cancelled. He's had everything closed off to him. He's had his assets seized. So he's looking at, well, I keep on getting all these charges. When the charges go away, they then raise more charges against me. It's all a bit suspicious from someone who's fairly neutral to this, but it's literally, oh yeah, that charge load of shit. Oh yeah, we're going to raise more charges against you, but you just raised charges. How come those weren't included? Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, those ones have gone away. We're going to raise more charges against you. It's just a really odd situation. They've stopped all his monetisation. They've frozen things like bank accounts, his assets, taken away his Lambos. So I think it is literally a case study for why you should have Bitcoin so someone can't just seize it. Correct. And then, one argument's, oh, but Andrew Tate, he's a bad man. He says bad things about women. And it's just like, but how long until that's you who they decide they don't like what you say? And it doesn't necessarily have to be anything bad. It's just that they don't like what you say, or they don't like what you stand for. Therefore, you're having your bank account frozen. Maybe you ate too much beef this week.
Yeah.
Or maybe you said you didn't like the government.
It's just like how many like random misogynist or sexists have existed over the last like 50 years, right? There's been freaking loads of them. But how many have had the amount of following that Andrew Tate has? Yeah. Is it because he's a bit of misogynistic occasionally? No, that isn't why people follow him. It's because he's spitting facts largely on the financial system and the way out. And yeah, he is going quite heavy-handed into the man should provide, and women should kind of be mums and look after the family, and the man should go out and do all that kind of like the breadwinning work. Yeah, fine. He's quite heavy-handed with that stuff and probably doesn't say things the way that I completely agree with. But that's why he's been cancelled. And to go, that's why he's been cancelled, clearly is not, people are not offended by that really. What he's really saying is he's exposing a load of the financial and political scams that are going on. And this is him tweeting that, because he's been a known Bitcoiner for a while, but he's saying here that he's going to ape in over 100 million into Bitcoin. I'll even prove I did it. I'm done with banks. I'm done with their money, done with their scams. So this is kind of, again, why Bitcoin is a use case even for rich people, because it's not just for the poor or the people in the middle. If you're already rich and you're someone like Andrew Tate who speaks out against the system, it doesn't matter how much money you have. They can seize that very, very easily. So he's basically saying here, I'm taking it all out of the existing banking system, getting it into Bitcoin, because I think he's realizing he needs to be able to move country quite fluidly. They're going to keep freezing bank accounts. I'm sure he's lost tens of millions over the last couple of years in cars that have been seized, properties that have been seized, all for charges that have never been proven, never been gone to court yet. So I'm sure this is yet another reaction to another bank account just being frozen, and you can't take money out of it now. And why? You're under review. Yeah, just like I am with Coinbase, I'm under review. Right?
You're still under review with Coinbase.
Yeah, still under review. Because I think it's come up to 2 years. Yeah, 2 years in, under review. And
here we are, Coinbase at both ends of the spectrum, cock blocking me on the way in.
Yeah.
But they were fine with me on the way in. And then who knows what happened, but somewhere someone sent them a black mark on my name and they just went, you're permanently under review. And what does it mean? It means I can't trade with them. I need to either empty the account or have everything frozen forever, and I am locked out of that. And to be fair, I'm amazed that Andrew Tate has not needed to do this earlier, because the fact that he has a working bank account amazes me more than the fact he's buying Bitcoin.
Yeah.
He's probably got actual physical cash, I imagine.
But I'm surprised they didn't seize that
100
in
million
the raids. Exactly.
With 100 million, yeah, good point.
Because I remember
cash, that is.
Yeah, exactly. I remember because Kanye West had obviously exactly the same in terms of all the accounts frozen, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was equally also a Bitcoiner. But he said what they didn't realize is that I had more money than they thought that I had, and obviously more bank accounts. And more money stashed away and more assets stashed away. So they couldn't cut me off.
Yeah.
But not everybody is in that position, of course.
Like it's the only way, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
the only way to kind of survive if you fight against the fiat system, like the easiest way to do it is to convert it to Bitcoin. And then in reality, like you could tell them, well, that they could even know that you have that Bitcoin, but you have plausible deniability, and they can take your freedom from you, but they can't ever take that money. That you could save that money on a USB in your 24 words, and provided they never find that, it's yours. But if it's in a bank account and if it's too directly in your name, because they'll grab it, and it's so easy to do that. It's so easy to make you a criminal, which is essentially what they've done with Andrew Tate. They've charged him with so many different things, but they haven't prosecuted him for anything yet.
No.
Or his brother. They have not been prosecuted for a single thing. They have not even stood trial for a single thing. I think they've spent over a year in prison so far.
Yeah.
They've been let out, but I know they got charged again. And here he is going, I've had enough now. I'm converting my money to Bitcoin. It's like, yeah, that is, as the financial system collapses, it's going to grab everyone on the way down and try and save itself. And hopefully that just pushes people into Bitcoin, because they all know that's the only genuine escape raft that there is. If you leave it in, no matter what bank, no matter what financial asset you convert that into, whether it be property, stocks, cash, bonds, pension, it's all the same thing. It can all be seized with one signature on a bit of paper, and the government you exist in can just seize it from you. But if it's on Bitcoin, even if they can see the transaction, they could see 100 million coming out of various accounts going into Bitcoin. There's no bit of paper they can sign that seizes that and brings it back. They have to come to your house. They have to find it. And if they can't find it, they can't seize it. Beautiful.
And I think that's probably a really good note to leave on. And so, yeah, that comes and brings us to the end of Pod 140, brought to you by a full house, Mr. Orlin, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and she is here and has been here for 2 weeks on the bounce, Mrs. No Show, aka still Mrs. No Show, even though she's shown. Peace.